Good morning. It's another year. We were here last year, and you know, there's been some good news since the last time you gathered back here in Washington, D.C. And I think it's important to celebrate the good news, to celebrate those things that clearly we mark as accomplishments. Certainly the passage of VAWA was something that we recognize and we look to as a clear accomplishment. The version of VAWA that was signed into law, I think we recognize, was the one that had the fewest compromises, but in order for us to get there, to get to that point, after the partisan nature of the debate, after the gridlock that had gone on for far too long, it was high time that legislation happened. And the efforts that so many of you made to realize this is important to recognize. So thank you for what you did. We've got our Alaskans here at the front that worked tirelessly in my state to make a difference. And I appreciate and I celebrate their accomplishments with this. So thank you, ladies from Alaska, and truly, I think that as we look to the success of the VAWA reauthorization, we have to recognize that authorization is one thing. It's the funding of the authorization that really makes the difference at the end of the day. So I note in the introduction the reference to the Appropriations Committee. I'll wear that responsibility. Know that I'm going to be looking out for this to make sure that we have not only adequate funding, but we have the funding that we need in order to make the advances that we clearly need to make. In my home state, I say this far too often, we are a state of incredible beauty, but we are tormented by the ugly underside of what happens in Alaska. Our statistics as they relate to domestic violence, sexual assault, are 2 times higher than the national average. We've got to change that dynamic. We're working to change that dynamic. But it takes time, it takes effort, it takes resources. So, I'm on the Hill today, and I see my colleague Kelly Ayotte here from New Hampshire, who will follow me. Proceedings underway. Yesterday, you saw the front page of the Washington Post, string of generals and admirals sitting up there talking about the issue of sexual assault within our military. I think that we know full well that this national policy of zero tolerance is not fully understood across our government, because what we are seeing is a level of domestic violence within the military ranks that is simply not acceptable. And there has been, call it a culture, call it an acceptance, call it what you will, it is wrong. It is wrong, and it will not be tolerated. I've signed on to 4 different pieces of legislation right now aimed at addressing the causes of military sexual trauma. I signed on to Senator Gillibrand's. This is the one that, quite honestly, the guys with the stars on their shoulders, they don't like, because what it does is it moves those in the chain of command out of the process there. You know, they will tell you that that is too radical, that that is too dramatic a step. I would suggest to you that the failure to address this year after year after year in branch after branch in the services, that is what is unacceptable. So we've got our work cut out for us here. We know that when we're talking about about violence, sexual assault. Our numbers, again, are too staggering. Acts of violence occur every 18 seconds in this country. A woman is abused every 9 seconds. And so, for those who are victims, we need to get up every day to do what we can to make a difference. And I know so many of you that are in this room and in your respective centers across the country, you are working to make that difference. I'm going to end with just one story because it's so compelling to me when I go back home to realize that we can't just view issues of domestic violence in kind of isolation. I was out at our women's shelter in Bethel, Alaska. Bethel is the 4th largest community in the state. It's not accessible by road. You fly in. It's very expensive to live there. Fuel is probably $6 a gallon. Home heating fuel is higher than that. In order for you to get medical care, most people fly to Anchorage, which is probably a $600–700 ticket. It's expensive. Just bottom line, it's expensive. Housing is practically non-existent. So when a woman has been victimized, when a woman needs to get away, when she needs that shelter, she can go to the Tundra Women's Shelter, beautiful new facility. Many come in from the small villages because this is the only place that they can get to. They come in, get whole again to the extent that a victim can get whole, but have that support and know that, okay, now I can go back out. I can take care of my children. I can deal with this. But there's no place for her to go. There's no housing. It's not that the housing is too expensive. It doesn't exist. So there's no housing back in her village. There's no housing in Bethel. In order to fly to Anchorage and live in Anchorage, you're now looking at several $1,000s just to get yourself and your family there. And so what happens? The only place she has to go is back home to her abuser. And it happens time after time after time again. So when we're talking about the ways that we need to respond, we need not only the shelters, we need the shelters beyond the shelters. So let's be thinking about how we truly are able to help those victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. Oftentimes, your mission goes beyond just opening the door to a shelter and welcoming a woman in. So thank you for what you do to make a difference for so many. And know that we got your back here. So thank you.